The first thing my sister noticed was that I had stopped crying. She didn't say anything about it at first. She just stood in the doorway of my kitchen, watching me make coffee like she was looking at a stranger. For 3 years, she had watched me fight for my marriage. She had seen me cry in her car. She had listened to me explain why my husband was suddenly coming home late. She had watched me forgive things she swore she would never forgive. And now, after everything, I was calm, too calm. She finally broke the silence. "Are you really not going to call him?" I looked at my phone. There were no missed calls, no messages, nothing. I stirred my coffee slowly. "No," she frowned. "You're not even going to ask where he slept last night?" "No." She walked closer. "What happened to you?" I looked up at her. "Nothing." She gave me a sad smile. "That's the problem. You used to fight for him." I didn't answer because she was right. I used to fight for him until the night I found the letter. And if my sister had known what was written inside it, she would have understood exactly why I stopped. My husband's name was Daniel. We had been married for 11 years. When we first met, he was the kind of man who made everyone believe in love. He remembered tiny details, my favorite flowers, the song I hated, the way I took my coffee. He used to leave little notes inside my lunch bag. Sometimes they said things as simple as, "I love you. Wait to grow old with you." I believed every word. We eventually bought a house together. We built a comfortable life. And for years, I thought we were happy until Daniel changed. It started with small things. He stopped talking about his day. Then he started taking his phone everywhere, even into the shower. He changed his password. He began working late. Then came the nights he didn't come home until after midnight. Whenever I asked him what was happening, he would say the same thing. "Work." Just one word, work. At first, I believed him. Then I started noticing things. A woman's perfume on his jacket, a restaurant receipt for 2 people, a hotel key card, and one evening I found a message on his phone. I didn't even need to open it. The preview said, "I can't keep waiting for you." Heart stopped. I confronted him. Daniel stared at me for several seconds. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You're becoming paranoid." That sentence broke something inside me, because instead of reassuring me, he made me feel crazy for noticing what was right in front of me. My sister, Maya, was the person I ran to. She sat beside me on her couch while I cried. "Leave him," she said. I shook my head. "I can't. I love him." She stared at me. "Does he love you?" I didn't answer. That silence told her everything. Still, I stayed. I thought maybe I could save our marriage. I suggested counseling. Daniel refused. I suggested taking a vacation together. He said he was too busy. I tried cooking his favorite meals. I dressed up for him. I became softer, more patient, more forgiving, and somehow, the harder I fought for him, the farther away he seemed to go, until one night he came home and placed a set of papers on the kitchen counter. "What's this?" I asked. "Divorce papers." I laughed, not because it was funny, because sometimes your body doesn't know how else to react when your heart is breaking. "You're serious?" "Yes." "Daniel, please." He wouldn't look at me. "I've made up my mind." I grabbed his arm. "Please don't do this." Gently pulled away. "You need to let me go." Those words destroyed me. For weeks afterward, I begged, I called him, I sent messages, I asked him to reconsider. And every time he ignored me, I found another reason to believe I wasn't good enough, until one morning, I stopped. Not because I stopped loving him, because I discovered something I wasn't supposed to find. It happened on a Tuesday. Daniel had left for work early. He had forgotten his old jacket in the closet. I was cleaning when I noticed something inside the pocket, an envelope. There was no name on the front, just one sentence: "For Daniel, if she ever finds out." Hands went cold. I almost put it back, almost. But something inside me told me to open it, so I did. There were 3 pages inside. The first line made my entire body freeze. "Daniel, you promised her you would never tell her what really happened that night." I read it again, then again. What night? What had Daniel promised? I kept reading. And the more I read, the less I understood my own marriage. The letter wasn't from another woman. It was from Daniel's mother. And it was dated 11 years earlier, 3 months before our wedding. She wrote about something Daniel had never told me, something connected to the night we first met. I sat on the bedroom floor with the letter in my hands. My entire life with my husband suddenly felt like a story someone else had written. And I had only just discovered the missing pages. If you're enjoying stories with secrets, twists, and emotional family drama, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because what I discovered on the final page changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I continued reading. Daniel's mother wrote, You cannot keep punishing yourself forever. Then, she deserves to know the truth, but I understand why you're afraid. Heart was pounding. Then I saw a sentence that made me stop breathing. Your brother's death was not your fault. I dropped the letter. Daniel had a brother. I knew Daniel had an older brother who had died when he was young. But Daniel had always told me it was an accident, a car accident. That's all I knew. I picked the letter back up. His mother explained that Daniel had been driving that night. His brother had been sitting beside him. There had been an argument. Daniel had wanted to go home. His brother had insisted on driving instead, and then the accident happened. But there was something else, something Daniel had hidden from me, something that explained why he had changed after we got married. I turned to the second page, and there it was, a name I recognized, Ethan. Ethan was Daniel's brother, but beneath his name was another name, Maya, my sister. I couldn't breathe. Why was my sister's name in Daniel's mother's letter? I grabbed my phone. I called Maya. She answered immediately. Hey, what's wrong? I couldn't speak. Are you there? Yes. Her voice became worried. What's happened? I finally whispered. Why did Daniel's mother write your name in a letter to him? Silence, not a normal silence, a terrified silence. Maya, she didn't answer. Maya, what do you know? Then she said 4 words that made my blood run cold. You found the letter. I stood up so quickly that I almost fell. How did you know about it? She started crying. Please, just listen to me. No, voice was shaking. You knew. I didn't know he still had it. What is it about? She cried harder. Come to my house. I drove there without even changing my clothes. When I arrived, Maya was sitting at the kitchen table. Her eyes were swollen. I placed the letter in front of her, start talking. She looked at it, then she looked at me. Daniel didn't leave you because of another woman. I laughed bitterly. Then why? She took a deep breath. Because he thinks you hate him. Why would I hate him? Because of Ethan. I stared at her. What does Ethan have to do with me? She reached into a drawer and pulled out an old photograph. She placed it on the table. It showed 3 teenagers standing outside a school, Daniel, Ethan, and me. I stared at the photograph. My hands began to tremble. I don't remember this. Maya nodded. You wouldn't. You were unconscious. Heart dropped. What? She looked at me. Your accident happened the same night Ethan died. I couldn't speak. Suddenly memories began returning. A rainy road, headlights, someone shouting my name, glass breaking, and a hand holding mine. I had spent years believing those memories were nightmares, but they weren't. They were memories. Maya finally told me the truth. 11 years ago, before Daniel and I got married, I had been involved in an accident. Ethan had been there, Daniel had been there, and Maya had been there. But I survived. Ethan didn't. Daniel had blamed himself. And Maya had made him promise never to tell me what happened because doctors believed the trauma could cause me to lose the memories completely. But Daniel couldn't live with the guilt, so he pushed me away. He convinced himself that I deserved someone better. Someone who wasn't carrying the guilt of his brother's death. The woman I thought he was leaving me for didn't exist. The late nights weren't affairs. He had been visiting his brother's grave, the perfume on his jacket, his mother's, the hotel receipt, a room he had rented for one night because he couldn't bring himself to come home, and the message that said, I can't keep waiting for you, wasn't from another woman. It was from his therapist. He had been trying to decide whether to finally tell me everything. And I had spent years believing my husband didn't love me anymore, but there was still one thing I couldn't understand. I looked at Maya. Why did you lie to me too? She started crying. Because Daniel asked me to. I shook my head. You let me believe my husband was cheating. I know. You watched me fall apart. I know. You watched me beg him to stay. I know. Why? She wiped her tears. Because every time Daniel tried to tell you, you would panic. You didn't remember the accident. You didn't remember Ethan. We were terrified that forcing you to remember would destroy you. I sat down. For 11 years. Everyone had been protecting me from a truth I didn't even know existed, but there was still one question. If Daniel loved me so much, why did he file for divorce? Maya looked at me. Because he thinks leaving you is the only way to give you a normal life. I stared at her. He thinks he's protecting me. She nodded. And he believes you would be happier without him. That was when I finally understood. Daniel wasn't fighting me because he didn't love me. He was running because he loved me so much that he thought he was poisoned. That evening, I went home. Daniel was sitting alone in the living room. He looked exhausted. He looked at me. You found it. I nodded. Didn't you tell me? He looked down. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you'd look at me differently. I walked toward him. You let me think you were cheating. I know. You let me think I wasn't enough. I know. You let me beg you to love me. His eyes filled with tears. I thought if you hated me, leaving would be easier. I sat beside him. You were wrong, looked at me. I don't hate you, started crying. Neither of us spoke for a while, then I asked, do you still want the divorce? He stared at me. No, that was the first honest answer he'd given me in years. I reached for his hand, but I didn't tell him everything was suddenly okay, because it wasn't. Love doesn't erase 11 years of lies. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, and finding the truth doesn't magically repair a broken marriage. We still had work to do, real work, counseling, honest conversations, and learning how to stop protecting each other with lies. But for the first time in years, we were finally fighting for the same thing, not against each other. For us, months later, I found the letter again. I read it from beginning to end, and this time I understood something I hadn't understood before. Sometimes the person who looks like they're walking away is actually the person who's been fighting the hardest. Daniel had spent years fighting his guilt. I had spent years fighting to save our marriage, and neither of us realized we were fighting the same battle. My sister once asked me why I had stopped fighting for my husband. The truth was, I hadn't stopped fighting. I had simply stopped fighting the wrong enemy. And sometimes the truth doesn't destroy a marriage. Sometimes it's the first thing that gives it a chance to survive. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more emotional stories filled with secrets, family drama, unexpected twists, and unforgettable endings. And tell me in the comments, if you were in my position, would you forgive Daniel after discovering the truth?